operate taking care of your franchisors and taking care of your customers and providing the best quality product you can to your customers and providing the best service support that you can for your franchisors.
Welcome to the Franchise Hot Seat Podcast, where we talk about all things franchising. Now, here's your host, Dr. John P. Hayes.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Franchise Hot Seat Podcast. Bob Coleman is with me today. I've known Bob for many decades and love talking with him, particularly about franchising and financing and franchises. And we're going to learn a lot this afternoon. Bob, welcome. Thank you for joining me. I know you're busy.
Thank you very much, John. Decades.
Yeah, it goes back a while, doesn't it?
It does.
So
thank you very much. I enjoy talking to you, and I love talking about this stuff. So
yeah,
it's going to be fun.
So let me ask you this question. How valuable is the Small Business Administration, the SBA, either to the government, to the consumer, or at least to the man or woman who wants to buy a franchise?
It is extremely valuable in that if you are looking to get into a franchise, it's another option that you have that is cost effective, low monthly payments. And over the years, over our collective decades, John, it's become easier and easier to use. You never deal with the government. You're simply dealing with the bank, which makes it a lot easier. And the bank does all the work in dealing with the government. So as far as you're concerned, it's a loan. And you don't care if the loan comes from a large bank, a small community bank, credit union. It doesn't come from the government, and they do all the work. So that's great for you.
And people don't understand that. It's not the United States government through the SBA giving you $200,000. How does it actually work?
How it works, you walk into your bank and sit down and you talk with them and you have a concept and I want to do this and I need to borrow a couple $100,000, and the bank processes you as if you were getting a regular loan through the bank without the guarantee. So you never talk with anybody from SBA. You're always talking to the banker. The bank does everything. You sign the documents there, you get the money from the bank, and you're good to go.
So why not just work with the bank?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, why not just work with the bank? Why is the SBA involved? What's the value?
As far as you're concerned, you're working with the bank. It's a bank loan as far as you're concerned. The only difference is the bank then goes to the SBA to get a guarantee. It's no different than, John, you sign a mortgage for a house and we sign the paperwork, and next thing we know, we're writing a check to someone else other than the bank because they sell the loan. We all understand that concept.
But it's that guarantee that people want. With that guarantee, I'm going to get a lower rate. I'm going to get more favorable terms.
Absolutely. The guarantee is for the bank. And because the bank gets a less credit risk exposure, you will be rewarded for that. Yeah.
Does the SBA make mistakes?
Absolutely.
What kind of mistakes?
As with any organization run by the government and run by human beings, they'll make mistakes. They're no different than a bank makes mistakes. So we all make mistakes. But here's the good news, John, is if you and I were talking, again, decades ago, we'd have to say, okay, don't worry about SBA. Ignore all the bad stuff that you've heard. That's changed over the years. SBA is, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, the one, if not only, bipartisan program in Washington.
Wow.
Both Republicans like it, Democrats like it, because they understand the concept.
Yeah.
They also understand that, hey, this is not free money. You have to pay a fee for it. You're going to have to pay interest rate. The bank pays a fee to use this. And the program generates income for the bank and also, for the government. And then people take that money and they hire people. And what do people do? They pay taxes and they get the economy going. So it's everyone in Congress understands the value of this type of program.
Mm-hmm. And are there some types of businesses that SBA will not give a bank a guarantee for a loan?
There are, but it's the old line, you'll know it when you see it. Obviously, the seedy businesses aren't going to be eligible. Businesses where the majority of their income is through gambling won't be eligible. So as of today, marijuana stores are not eligible. That will change at some point in the future. So there are things that aren't eligible. The most common one is you need to be a for-profit organization. So unlike the PPP program, where it was able to go for nonprofits, you need to be a profit-making organization. And basically, if you're in any type of Main Street wholesale business, you're going to be fine.
Okay. And can anyone apply? What are the basics? Before I go into the bank, and the bank's going to tell me if I can or not, but give us a heads up. Who should not apply for SBA funding?
What I would do is I would tend to shy away from loan brokers. That will upset my loan broker friends.
Yeah.
I would align yourself with experts in franchising business, for example, if you want to do franchise. And there are a number of good companies out there that I would retain, or there are other services. For example, SBA offers counseling through small business development companies. If you're an exporter, they offer counseling for that to walk you through the package. SBDCs, I'm a huge fan of, John. And the SBDC will sit down and they will counsel you, and they'll help you put together the plan that you would present to the bank.
Okay. You can find SBDCs fairly easily. You can go online to sba.gov, and I'm sure they'll give you a list there. You can just ask around. Usually universities have these small business development centers.
There's small business development companies, and there's specific centers for women-owned businesses and veteran-owned businesses.
Veterans,
Look, we understand bankers make loans all day long. They're like car dealers. Dealers sell cars all day long. How often do you go and buy a car? How often do you need a business loan? So they understand that there's a disconnect between the level of acumen that you have as a business owner versus the banker. And there's a lot of people there who will help you bridge that gap.
Yeah. What about, do I have to have $100,000, $300,000 to go over to the bank because I want to borrow $600,000? How will I be qualified or disqualified based on what I own or my credit?
Yeah, I mean, the answer is yes, yes, yes. You need to have some of your own money into the project. You need to have a decent credit score. The higher the credit score, the better off you are. What's interesting is SBA is not what they call a collateral lender. You do not need to walk in and say, I have all this collateral. They are a cash flow lender. So the bank is going to be looking at your cash flow. And if you come into a concept, let's say that's going to cost $500,000 to get into it, and you say, I'm going to put in $250,000, I need to borrow $250,000, you will be more highly embraced than if you say, I'm going to put in $50,000 and I need $450,000.
Yeah.
So,
but isn't there a range that if you want to borrow $100,000 SBA, you probably have to put in $35,000 of your own money?
1/3 is always a good number. One of the things also SBA wants you to do is to make sure not only do you have enough capital or cash flow to get into a concept, but you have enough money to operate for the next 12 to 18 months. So they're very concerned about that. 1/3 is a good number that you have, that if you want to start someplace, I think that's a fair number to start with.
Okay. And where do I begin? I'm going to go to the bank. I'm going to ask for a loan. I'm going to ask for SBA backing. Should I go spend a couple hours with my accountant before I even go to the bank?
No, you're not going to spend. I don't want you to spend that money. They're going to charge you. The first thing you do is come up with I wouldn't even get to that point. The first thing I would do is, what do I want to do? What type of franchise do I want to operate? Do I want to operate a restaurant, a cleaning service, a dog grooming? That's the first thing.
Yeah.
Find out something that you can say, hey, this is something that's exciting to me, and I'm willing to do this my entire waking hours. Then that's the first thing you do. Because if you find out what you're passionate about and that you're committed to that. Because what'll happen, John, is that will translate to the banker that you talk to. If you walk in and say, yeah, here, I really want to do this restaurant, as opposed to, I've been looking for this opportunity my entire life, and this is awesome. This is what I want to do. This is that by itself is a huge step. Then after you run the numbers, you do your due diligence, you go on the internet, you get in the car, You get on a plane, you talk to the owners, you talk to the franchises. Every franchise there's a Reddit or there's something, they call it unhappy franchises. So see what the people who don't like it, what they're saying. There's always a minority, but read through that and do all that basic groundwork so you know what you're talking about. Then you can start putting together the plan and the numbers. If I keep I have $250,000 in the bank, so that means I can borrow, around up to $500,000. I'm just going to set that aside, and I'm going to do my homework first, and then I'll start worrying about crunching numbers.
Mm-hmm. And one of the great things in franchising, so many good things about franchising and some bad things too. But one of the great things that I discovered along the way, and you're the king of this information, is the SBA registry. What is that about?
That's a great question. First of all, when you're saying franchise, this is good. The numbers state that franchise loans perform better than what I call mom and pop. So you have that going for you. Lenders certainly understand the attractiveness of franchises. They also understand what the problems are. So lenders, they're smart people. The registry is, you need to be approved. The franchise concept has to be approved by SBA. What we're concerned about, what Bruce is concerned about, is that you are a small business owner and you're simply not putting up your money and buying a job. So the franchisor has to be blessed, say that these are really small businesses. What's the test, John? Basically, your capital's at risk and you can sell your franchise without meddling by the franchisor. It's a small business and you can operate one or two or more than that. So the registry will do that. Now, I will tell you that is going to change in the future. This is February of 2023. I don't know when it will change, but SBA has promised to make that process easier for you. So right now it's pretty easy. You just go to SBAregistry.com and you click on it, and there it is. So it's approved. We're good to go.
Okay. Now, bankers rely on SBAregistry.com. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah,
good information.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's information about the performance of loans that were granted to franchisees of brand A, brand B, brand D, brand X, and so forth. And it shows how those loans have.
That's a great question. The answer is the registry only does one thing, and that is SBA will bless it that it's eligible to be called a small business. It doesn't pass judgment of whether it is a financially viable franchisor. So be careful. Now that information needs to be in there and you need to do your own due diligence. But SBA and the lender, they don't have a system that says this is a good franchisor, this is a bad franchisor.
Right.
That is up to the lenders. The lender has that decision whether they want to make that loan or not to that franchisee.
Okay. If I go to SBAregistry.com, I'm able to view, anybody can go view the SBA registry.
Absolutely.
Or you can go to the SBA also and see the registry. Do you recommend everyone do that before buying a franchise?
What I would recommend, I'd go one step further. You can buy our franchise report for $500, or you can do what we do is you go to SBA.gov and they actually have the underlying loan data there for the last 50 years.
Yeah.
So take whatever concept you have, you can download the spreadsheet. If you're not spreadsheet savvy, hire the kid next door, throw them a couple pizzas, and they can sort every SBA loan to that franchise concept, and they can sort it by name, city, address, dollar amount, and whether the loan was charged off or paid off. So,
and that's what you do. You analyze, you collect all that data.
Yeah, we do that. But if you don't want to buy our entire report, and we do that, we sell that to the lenders because they want to have everything. But you don't need to buy that just to get that one line. You can go and do that. And I know and if you talk to your lender may share that data with you if they have that data as well. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would do. I would definitely do that homework and see how other franchises are.
Mm-hmm. So I want to buy brand B, whatever it is.
Uh-huh.
And I get my hands on this data either through your report or I go online, as you say, SBAregistry.com. I get somebody who is tech savvy, who knows how to download the data. I can't even say it, so I'm sure I'm not good at it. And find out in the last 5 years, how many loans did the SBA guarantee for brand B?
Absolutely.
And were those loans paid off or were those loans stalled along the way? Doesn't the SBA give a percentage that it says 68% of the time SBA received, the bank received all of its money back? The SBA didn't have to pay out on the promise to cover that.
Yeah, the number's a little bit high, is higher than that, but yes.
Okay.
It'll also show you the amount of the loss as well if you want to dive down deep in the data.
Yeah. So with brand B, it might say that 98% of the time the franchisees pay back the note.
Right.
That's a good thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Where does it get if it's lower? How low is too low? That get to the point where the SBA says we do not recommend lending to brand B.
I apologize. I cut you off. I get excited talking about this.
Yeah.
The SBA doesn't make any recommendations on that. They don't say this brand B, no, you can't do it. It's the lenders who make that decision. So that's
okay.
First of all. And the lenders different lenders. That's why they have different appetites for different things. Some lenders will only do hotel, flag, major brands, and they won't touch the smaller deals. Or other ones will say, well, we'll do any franchise, but we want it in our local geographic area. But if there's famous franchises that when you see them approaching 50% defaults, that's a pretty universal sign no one's going to touch that loan in the future.
Before we continue, let me tell you about the Selling Franchises Bootcamp coming up at Palm Beach Atlantic University, the home of the Titus Center for Franchising in West Palm Beach. This 2-day bootcamp is jam-packed with information and people who will help you sell more franchises in 2023 and beyond. Everything from lead generation to technology that people are using today to sell more franchises, to events that you can incorporate, to how to sell to the generations of people who are buying franchises. Baby boomers don't buy the same way as Gen Z buys, and you need to know that information. Plenty of networking opportunities, 3 major keynotes, lots of information that will be valuable to you in this 2-day boot camp at Palm Beach Atlantic University. You can get all the details at tituscenter.com. Click on Selling Franchises Bootcamp. It's set for January 19 and 20, 2023. Yeah. So the bank say, I suppose they can, well, we'll make you a loan on brand B, but the interest is going to be considerably more than if you were to buy another brand.
No, they'll say, no, we're not going to touch it.
They just won't touch it at all.
They won't touch it. If it's a bad brand, they will not mitigate the risk by charging.
Okay. And there have been brands that the public thought, this is a good brand. I want to throw one out for you. Cold Stone. What happened with Cold Stone?
I think the best way to answer that is these are businesses, and you need to treat your business well. And there are 2 ways to operate. And one is to operate taking care of your franchisors and taking care of your customers and providing the best quality product you can to your customers and providing the best service support that you can for your franchisors. The franchise, not mentioning any names, but the franchisors who do that will succeed. Those who simply go out and simply want to make money off the fees, that concept may shine brightly for a while, but will eventually crash and burn.
Yeah. And the public doesn't know necessarily what's going on because the product's great. You enjoy going there. Another one I think falls into that same realm is Quiznos. What happened in the Quiznos?
Again, you're talking pre-pandemic or post-pandemic. That's a huge
pre-pandemic. Yeah.
Yeah. Oversaturation, where they don't care. Subway was great at that in terms of oversaturation. That they didn't care if you bought a concept here, you bought it down and then you opened up someone right down the street, where they're more concerned about putting locations out and not that concerned about the quality of the product that they're supporting for the franchisors.
And because I know quite a bit about Subway, I wrote Fred DeLuca's book, Start Small, Finish, friends with him for longer than I've been friends with you, actually, throughout my career in franchising. And Subway was always being dinged for oversaturation. And yet,
go ahead.
Subway survived. And, now you're reading where Subway's going to be sold after the founder's death. The two of them are now dead for billions of dollars. So maybe oversaturation isn't a bad thing.
But look at the numbers. Subway always performed greatly also. So while you had, as every situation is different, and the lenders would look at Subway and for years and years and say, there's no losses on these stores. So every case is different, and that's why franchise lend is, as you said, there's good concepts and there's bad concepts, and it's the lender's job, not SBA's job. It's the lender's job saying, okay, we may have an oversaturation here, but the question for Subway in 2023 is the product still viable? Is this the same type of quality product our consumers want that they wanted 10, 15 years ago? Insert Quiznos, insert Ben, anybody you want into that conversation.
Yeah. Now, going back to the registry, at one point, I thought the registry was dead, that the SBA discontinued it. Congress didn't want to pay for it. Do I have that right, or what happened?
You have that right, and it will die. It will die a death. So I don't know what the new concept will be. I suspect, and I have no inside information, this is a guess, I suspect what's going to happen is they're just going to come up with a list, and they're going to say Subway, yes, and that's all you're going to have to do. If the name's on the list, then you're fine and it's approved.
But how will it get on the list? Will there be criteria, or won't know what the criteria are?
In the past, SBA has done that. I'm assuming that, but it could be that they just do away with it completely and just leave it up to the lender to make that determination.
Mm-hmm. Which is difficult for a little local lender to be able to do.
Not necessarily, because, John, what happens if it's going to be Bob and John's sandwich shop, we walk in, or Bob and John partner and buy a Subway? We still have to be eligible for a small business loan, so whether we do it together.
Yeah.
The bank says, oh, yeah, you guys are a small business. Oh, we're going to do this, but we're going to put Subway on the outside. And the bank says, okay, you're still a small business. So the good news is whatever they come up with, it's going to be easier. It's going to be less headache for your audience, that they don't have to worry about that. They say, okay, this concept's been approved. Boom, we're good to go.
So the registry won't go away. It'll be there in some...
I don't know. If I had to guess, I would say... I don't know, because I read the same things you do, that it's going to go away and they don't want to pay for it. So that may mean the lender may just end up doing it themselves, which is okay. The lenders know what they're doing. They can make that decision.
Yeah. And they who doesn't want to pay for it. Yeah. Meaning the government. For example,
they can say, lender, make the decision. And they have to do this anyway. They said, okay, is this a small business? Does this person have their capital at risk, and can they sell the business without someone saying yes or no? Well, that's easy. We look in the contract and yeah.
Okay. Now, on that point, in franchising, you can't sell the franchise without someone else saying yes or no, because ultimately a franchisor has to of whoever you're going to sell your franchise. And
that's why the wiggle word is not unreasonably withheld or whatever. You're right. That is an issue, and lenders understand that. And SBA understands that, and Congress understands that. So I tend to look at that's going to be clarified, and that's going to be a lot easier for all of us to understand what they're trying to do. Everyone understands that's a problem. Yeah. And that the good news is it's going to be fixed.
Okay. Wasn't there a time when the data was assembled by or under the control of the International Franchise Association and a vendor called FranData in Washington, D.C.?
Yes.
And how did that work, or why did that not work and they stopped doing that? And how did that occur?
I don't know, but I would guess is that they wanted to be more transparent. So they said, we're not going to allow this data to be controlled by whatever entity, and we're going to open it up.
And how is it gathered now? Who does that work?
In terms of, well, what be more specific in terms of the data.
So somebody on the SBA staff is compiling the registry, not at the IFA or not at some other third-party vendor.
Well, it's working fine now, but they want to change it. So the answer is yes, SBA is doing it, but it is going to, as they said, it's going to be more streamlined. Mm-hmm. Now, it's interesting if you really want to get in the weeds and read the comments. There are a lot of comments that said, "Hey, we want to be told what to do. The lender wants to be told whether we do this or not." But that's not lenders. Lenders make decisions, and there's nothing wrong with them. SBA saying, "We're going to let you make this decision. And here's the parameters. No different than we're going to let you make the decision on what you're going to take as collateral. We're not going to tell you what to take as collateral. We're not going to tell you what franchise to lend to, but it's here's the parameter, but you make the decision that's prudent."
Okay. How about if Bob Coleman said, "All right, I'm going to stop doing what I've been doing all these years, advising lenders, helping lenders gather information, understand information. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to be a franchisee." What's Bob Coleman going to buy? What do you like?
That is above my pay grade because my wife, well, I would probably want to buy some sort of chicken wings, sports bar, big TVs all over the place. Right. Someone else in my family may want to do more of gift, I don't know, card store, gift store, baskets type thing. But,
okay.
I could see running a sports bar as sort of a fun thing.
And there are sports bars that are franchised.
Yeah.
How do they perform based on SBA data, based on what you've looked at? And how do those franchisors perform? Are they taking care of their franchisees, as you talked about before? And franchisees taking care of their customers. Who does that well? Would you name names, or you don't know offhand?
And not because I don't want to, is because I don't. That's not something I study. I sort of rely on experts such as you and anecdotal information on that. I don't go in and study how they perform today. All I can tell you is who's performed well over the years. I will name a name, obviously Marriott Hotels.
Yeah.
For brand you want to, in Marriott, there's been no losses in the last 10 years. Lenders will fall all over themselves if you want to come in and say, "Hey, we have one of the Marriott flagged hotels." So that tells me over the years that Marriott's taking care of the customer and taking care of the franchisee.
Yeah. Are there other hotels?
All hotels are performing well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a subset down below, which we don't need to name them, but right. The Hiltons, the Marriotts, the top flag names. Yeah. All the hotel owners have really got their act together, and they've come up with a concept that if the franchisee follows and they buy into all of it and do everything they're going to do very well.
But most prospective franchisees, the moms and pops, they're not going to buy a hotel. They're not going to qualify. It's over their pay grade, probably not their passion. It's usually groups of individuals who get together and buy these kinds of lodging opportunities. So the investment that's $80,000 to $300,000, the sweet spot that people are buying into, they're not going to be buying hotels. What about it at that level? What do you see in that sweet spot of franchises? And whether you name brands or not, it'd be nice if you could, but you may not know of one.
I really don't.
To promote them. I would say, who does a good job, or what industries are known for doing a good job besides lodging?
Yeah, I mean, restaurants are always interesting. People need to eat. People are always coming with new concepts. And John, it's so difficult being an entrepreneur. You are retired out of Boeing as an engineer. You're early 50s, mid 50s. You've built up a couple $100,000, $500,000 in your 401k. You want to use that as your equity.
Yeah.
But now you have to become an expert in, if you go to a restaurant, in terms of employee relations, content in terms of the product, cooking the product, taking care of the customer. I mean, you have to do all this stuff. So that's why franchises are so attractive they help you with that. So, but I tend to, I tend to go back to my original statement is sort of instead of, what interests you? And I know, how many franchise, now I'm going to turn it around. How many new franchise concepts came out in 2022?
Somewhere in the range of 400 to 500.
Yeah, there's plenty of opportunities out there, and there's plenty of great ideas that people are franchising.
Yeah. But you got to find something that you really want to do, even though passion can be overrated. You can get really excited about something, but you're not getting excited perhaps for the right reasons, but you show a lot of passion for it. I think it's a good thing to show passion, but there's more to success in franchising than just having the passion.
Yeah.
It's selecting the right one, selecting that one, as you point out, that takes care of its franchisees so those franchisees can take care of the customer, the end user of the product or service. And not every brand does that well, as we know.
And I think in terms of choosing it, make sure you're not investing to buy a job.
Yeah.
Are you able to take the one and then get another one and another one, and start getting some benefits of owning 3 or 4 different units? Because that's going from 1 to 2 is huge. Lenders are a little leery of that. But if you want to come in and you're going from 4 to 5, you're going to be much more receptive because they see that you've pulled it off.
Yeah. And that concept of buying a job, in other words, you buy a unit of something and you're stuck there. You can't grow beyond. That's a bad thing. The idea of buying a job in the sense that you're buying an opportunity to do something you really want to do and you own it yourself. You're a franchisee, but you own the equity 100%. That's not such a bad job to have.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct.
Well, Bob, thank you for this time today. It was really enlightening, very helpful. I hope that SBA registry doesn't go away for your sake, as well as for all the buyers of franchises, because it's a great resource to find out a brand is performing in terms of how well the franchisees are performing to pay back loans, which is some indicator.
Well, that's not going to go away. The data will always be there.
That's great.
So that's good news.
Yeah. Well, that data will always be there, and Bob Coleman will always be there.
Hey,
I like
that's
that,
very
Bob.
kind of you. Well, John, I really
God
appreciate
bless you. Thank you for joining me today.
Inviting me on. And let's reconnect after the new rules come out, and I'd be more than happy to sit down and explain.
Yeah, we'll do. Your website, Bob, what's the best way to go find what Bob Coleman's up to?
ColemanReport.com.
ColemanReport.com. Great. Well, thank you, Bob. Best wishes to you. Take care. All right, Bob, that was great.
Is that okay? I'm sorry. I just don't have the expertise.
Thanks for tuning in to the Franchise Hot Seat Podcast with Dr. John P. Hayes. Tune in next time for more conversation around all things franchising.